When I first moved into the apartment on Hazel Row, I thought I'd found peace. After years of living in cramped, noisy downtown spaces, the quiet cul-de-sac with its blooming dogwoods and small balconies felt like a promise of calm. The street was lined with pastel houses, the kind where people waved to each other while watering their lawns. My unit was small, but perfect. Sunlight poured through the kitchen window every morning, and my upstairs neighbor, an older woman named Mrs. Callahan, baked muffins every Sunday. For the first few months, life there was exactly what I'd hoped for. Then, the people next door moved in. It was a Friday night when the peace shattered for the first time. I remember it clearly because I had just poured myself a glass of wine and sat down to finish some freelance work. Around 9, the music started, bass-heavy and relentless, vibrating through my walls like a heartbeat gone wrong. I figured it was just a one-time thing, new tenants celebrating, maybe a housewarming party. But then, the shouting started. Dozens of voices, laughter that bordered on manic, glass shattering, followed by a woman's shriek, and then more laughter. By midnight, I'd given up on sleep. My ceiling fan trembled with the bass, and somewhere outside, someone yelled, "Shots! Shots! Shots!" as the crowd erupted. I pressed a pillow over my head, but it didn't help. I finally gave in and peered through the blinds. The house next door was lit up like a club. Strobe lights flashed through the windows, and the front yard was packed with people. Beer bottles littered the grass, a girl was dancing barefoot on a car hood, and a guy was trying to light something that looked suspiciously like fireworks. I could even hear them chanting, "Zach, Zach, Zach." That was the first time I heard his name. The next morning, my front yard looked like a landfill, empty cans, fast food wrappers, and cigarette butts everywhere. Someone had even left a red Solo cup on the hood of my car, with what I'm pretty sure was vomit inside. I stood there in disbelief, holding a trash bag, wondering if this was my life now. When I finally caught one of them outside, a tall, muscular guy in a backward cap, shirtless and hungover, I tried to be polite. "Hey," I called out, forcing a smile, "I think some of your party guests left a mess in my yard last night." He squinted at me, clearly struggling to focus. "Oh, yeah, sorry, dude, we'll clean it up." He didn't. By the following weekend, it happened again. Louder, wilder. It wasn't just music now, there were fights too. I heard shouting, crashing sounds, and once, unmistakably, someone sobbing. At 2 in the morning, I saw 2 girls dragging a mother toward a car, yelling, "She's fine, just get her home." I started keeping a log of the noise, the trash, the incidents, dates, times, photos. It wasn't that I was trying to be a nuisance, I just needed proof, because when I finally called the police, they shrugged it off. "They're just college kids, ma'am," the officer told me over the phone. "We'll send a car if it gets violent, but noise complaints like this are pretty common. Try earplugs." Earplugs. That night, I lay awake, listening to the chaos next door and wondering how I'd gone from peace to this in a matter of weeks. By the 5th weekend, I was at my breaking point. They had a DJ this time, a DJ. The crowd spilled into the street, cars lined up on both sides, and someone even dragged a couch out onto the sidewalk. I watched from behind my curtain as Zach, now unmistakable as the ringleader, stood in the middle of it all like a king surveying his court. He was the type of guy you could tell had never faced consequences. Tall, tanned, cocky, the kind who believed charm was currency and rules were optional. Girls hung off his arm, guys slapped him on the back, and when the police finally did show up, probably because someone else complained, he flashed them a grin, said something smooth, and the officers left within minutes. That's when I realized this wouldn't stop on its own. The next morning, bleary-eyed and furious, I decided to confront them directly. I knocked on their door, ready to be assertive but calm. A girl with smeared mascara answered, holding a bottle of orange juice. "Zach's asleep," she mumbled. "Then wake him up," I said flatly. "This has gone on long enough." She rolled her eyes. "Chill, lady, it's Saturday." That was it. I'd tried polite. I'd tried patience. Now it was time for strategy. I started by researching the property. It turned out the house wasn't owned by any of them. It was a rental. I found the listing online and, after some digging, got the name of the property management company. I called first thing Monday morning. "Hi," I said sweetly. "I live next door to one of your rental properties on Hazel Row. I think you should know your tenants are hosting weekly parties that are, well, unsafe." The woman on the phone sounded bored. "We'll make a note, ma'am." "If there's damage to the property, the owner will be notified." "The owner?" I repeated. "Could I get their contact info?" "I'm afraid that's confidential." Of course it was. But the woman slipped up. She mentioned the owner's last name while checking the file. Redding. I hung up and started searching online. Redding Hazel Row, Redding property owner, Redding real estate. It didn't take long. Within minutes, I found a man named Gordon Redding, a local contractor who owned several properties in the area, including the one next door. I found his office number and called. He answered himself, sounding brisk but not unfriendly. "Redding Construction." "Mr. Redding," I said, choosing my words carefully. "I'm your tenant's neighbor on Hazel Row. I think you should know that your renters are destroying your property." There was a pause. "Which property?" "Number 14. He sighed. "Zachary, right?" "Yes," I said, a bit surprised. He groaned. "That's my son." For a moment, I was too stunned to speak. "Your son?" "Yeah," he said heavily. "I let him and his friends rent it out for a year. Thought it'd teach him responsibility. Guess that's not working out." I hesitated. "With all due respect, Mr. Redding, your son is turning the place into a nightclub. Every weekend, there's drinking, fighting, and damage spilling into my yard. I've called the police, but nothing changes." There was another pause, longer this time. When he spoke again, his voice was low. "Thank you for telling me. I'll handle it." I didn't expect much to come from it. Maybe he'd scold his son, maybe not. But that Friday night, something unexpected happened. No music, no lights, no cars. The silence was almost eerie. I sat by the window, waiting, half expecting it to start any moment. But it never did. The next morning, I saw a moving truck in front of their house. 2 men were hauling boxes out while Zach stood in the driveway, arguing with an older man in a crisp button-down. Gordon. Even from a distance, the resemblance was clear. Same sharp jawline, same dark hair. But Gordon's expression was pure steel. I watched, hidden behind my curtain, as Zach's anger gave way to disbelief. He gestured wildly, pointing at the house, shouting something I couldn't hear. Gordon didn't flinch. He just pointed to the truck. Then, finally, he turned and got into his car, leaving Zach standing there, jaw clenched. By noon, they were gone. The house was empty. For the first time in months, Hazel Row was silent again. Over the next few weeks, things returned to normal. The mornings were filled with birds instead of bass, the sidewalks were clean. Mrs. Callahan even stopped by with a basket of muffins, smiling. "Looks like your persistence paid off, dear." I smiled back, but part of me couldn't shake the image of that confrontation, the raw look on Zach's face as his father drove away. It should have felt like victory. Instead, it felt complicated. Until, one evening, someone knocked on my door. When I opened it, Zach stood there. His hair was shorter, his clothes clean, his posture subdued. Gone was the swaggering boy I'd seen yelling in the street. "I just wanted to say," he started, rubbing the back of his neck. "I get it now." I didn't say anything. "My dad, he told me you called. At first, I was pissed, thought you ruined my life. But honestly, you probably saved it." He gave a small, bitter laugh. "He cut me off, made me get a job, said if I wanted to live like an adult, I had to act like one." I studied him. He looked genuinely remorseful. "I'm not asking for forgiveness," he said. "I just wanted to tell you I'm sorry. For everything." I nodded slowly. "Thank you, Zach. I appreciate that." He hesitated. "I'm working for my dad now. Construction. It's hard work, but it feels good to actually do something. Anyway, I'll let you go. Just wanted to say that." After he left, I stood by the door for a while, thinking, life has a strange way of circling back. Sometimes the people who cause chaos end up being forced to face it head on. Months later, when a new family moved into the house, quiet, kind, with two little girls who loved chalk art on the sidewalk, I realized something else. Revenge doesn't always have to be loud or cruel. Sometimes it's just the right truth in the right ear. And peace, real peace, isn't found by waiting for the noise to stop. It's earned by making sure it never starts again.
You've just stepped into her revenge side, where every wound finds its justice, and every silence ends with truth. If her story struck a chord, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Your support keeps these stories alive. Another secret waits in the next video. See how her revenge begins.